Morning, Gal.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Year.
New Year.
Well, hopefully we'll get a quorum today, although with Mark gone, it's a smaller group. Smaller need fewer people to get the quorum, but sorry to hear about Carla.
Yeah, me too. Boy.
She wrote it was minor, so hopefully it is and not a big deal, but put her in the hospital, so it's not good.
Yeah. No.
Good
Morning,
morning,
Marcia.
Marcia.
Good morning.
Morning.
Trying to arrange it so that I'm not looking at the camera too much because my camera's here, but my bigger screen's over here. And my notes are down here. If I'm looking like this, I am paying attention. I'm just taking notes.
It all works.
We're reading. And everybody had good holidays and,
Pretty much.
Really quiet.
But even still, it's so nice that they're done.
Mhm.
Men may not understand that as well as women. Not to be sexist.
No doubt, a lot of work.
Good morning.
Good morning, John.
Morning, John.
Morning.
God, I'm a minute late. Sorry about that.
We were counting.
First thing I should ask is make sure, are we going to have a quorum today?
Well, without Mark, we're down to 7 members, so the quorum would be 4. So I think we're okay.
We're okay, good. Okay. So I think the only person otherwise expected that's not here right now is Martha.
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I didn't see anything from her.
Neither did I. Yep.
So I assume she might be having some problems. Maybe another minute and then we'll open with the minutes. Let's see. There. Change. Looks like a pretty thin schedule today anyway.
Yeah, we have a couple of things that came up at the last minute. One request for a
Always does.
CP extension, believe it or not. And there was, just what to do with people who still didn't get through the CPEs. We're gonna just maybe make that part of new business.
Okay. Okay, 10:03. I guess we can begin. Oh, we've got an additional. Gee, I feel bad here without a beard. Okay, do we have any comments, additions, deletions, corrections for the minutes of the last meeting?
No,
None? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the prior meeting.
so
I'll
moved.
make that motion.
Okay, have a second?
Marcia will second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I presume no nays. Okay, the motion is carried. I don't see that we have anybody else on right now, do we? I don't see anybody down below.
Don't either.
1, 2, 3, 4,
No.
maybe, perhaps we do. We don't, sorry.
We don't.
Okay. Then we go to you, Frank, with updates on legislation, et cetera. Unless
Yeah,
you're
the
going to
only
dump it
thing
down to
about the
Cat.
2020 legislation is that's now the 2021 legislation, so they basically carried over last session's requests to the new one. So we'll try to, I mean, that was giving, there was a requirement for 7 years to hold on to work for the CPAs and some other, gee, I can't remember. Anyway, but that's going forward. So that is that I guess Bonnie's not here to talk about anything new in addition to that. But anyway, so hopefully there will actually be a full session this year, and whether remotely or not, and that we'll get our stuff through. So if there's any need for the board to weigh in, as there has been in past years, we'll reach out and let you know and try to come up with something.
Okay.
For that.
I would expect not, but not for
Right,
that.
I know
but-
there was once, couple of sessions back, right, there was, I can't remember what the specific was, they were looking for a letter from the board that you put
Right.
together and submitted to one of the committees, just in support of the, there might have been the allowing the CPEs to be taken in other states. If people whose main office is another state, main license is another state, if they pass CPEs there, we would
Right.
accept those. It might have been that one.
Okay,
Anyway,
that I can understand. That seems okay. Is that it?
yeah, other than just this is, yeah, just quickly, the notice, no, that's it.
Okay. Status of revisions to regulations, anything to report there?
Unfortunately not. I don't know. It's still with the governor's office, unfortunately. There's been, I said this last time, but it sounds like there's movement in other areas of regs that we have. So hopefully then that'll allow us to give a little bit more push to these. And, I've made people aware of of the necessity to get these things through. And I know NASBA's offered to help give some pushes, so maybe I'll reach out to them to try to
Okay,
talk.
it
to
might
people.
help.
Maybe a voice beside my own might be helpful.
very good. Perhaps. I think probably there's other things involved. Nope, just people aren't going to deal with anything below a certain level. I don't know. It should be interesting to see
I just COVID and everything around that.
Right.
It's taking
The-
people's,
the
it should. So,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the outside opening of the legislature today should be interesting to watch.
Yes.
Okay, then if there's nothing else, then we move on to new business, remote testing.
Okay, this has come up there because, again, it looks like NASBA and the AICPA and Prometric are working together to come up with something to allow candidates to test from their homes remotely. And it would be only in emergency situations, and emergency is yet to be defined, but it would be situations where it would be impossible to otherwise go to testing centers is what they're talking about. But they want to be ready. They feel that technologically we're getting closer and to do, or able to do this. And so there was a demonstration of this by all three groups in mid-December, where they actually showed somebody from the candidate's perspective, somebody acted as a candidate and showing just quickly, and it wasn't it wasn't everything because it would have taken too long of what they have to go through. And then the ACPA and NASBA, Colleen Conrad for NASBA spoke about what some of the next steps are. And Ms. Arsenault and I were both viewed the demonstration and took notes. And the reason we're bringing it here is that at this point, well, I'll get to some of the next steps are going to be that looking for input from the boards, but if I can go through my notes real quick as to what I observed during the testing, if you'd like, and then we can then get to what the next steps are going to be, just to get some idea, perspective as to where things stand currently.
Yeah, I'd be interested, but I'll defer to the other members of the board.
I would like to hear. I'd like to hear what you've observed during that time period.
Okay, thank you. And I'd ask Kat Arsenault to chime in for anything and fill in any holes she feels that I'm missing, because she has someone who's in.
Martha just joined.
Yes.
It's good timing, Martha. This is the first substance we've had. So.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I had another call that went longer than I thought. I apologize.
Understood.
She's had someone in her house taking remote tests and has comments as to what she's seen from them versus what was demonstrated. So, if you feel like you need to chime in, please do. Basically there are 3 levels to take the test. So a candidate would log in, get connected, and first be connected with what they call a readiness agent, who would go through making sure the person, or checking out the person's ID, and then satisfying questions of the condition of the system, of the person's system, and we do a scan of the room and of the desk of what the person, make sure the person's not wearing any jewelry, watches, smart watches that could be used to cheat. Make sure if they're wearing glasses that they're not smart glasses, they're real glasses. Just doing different steps to make sure that everything's clean and that the person is just taking, it doesn't have anything around them to be able to cheat. And they actually show that they'd have them pick up the laptop and show it around the room, show it around the desk, and show what's there. If the readiness agent does not feel that the environment, as they call it, is secure, they will either make them remove things that they have to, or if that's not possible, then the candidate would have to find a different room or different environment in order to take the test. So they're serious about that. And once they are satisfied, then they move on to a proctor. And the proctor could be viewing up to 8 candidates at once, kind of like someone at the actual test center who would be observing people while they're testing, walking around. And it may not necessarily all be CPA candidates. So this is being created not just for CPAs, but for other exams. And I mean, Kat, it was not clear to me. Are others already taking this remotely in other areas? Are you on mute? Are you trying to speak?
Yeah,
Yep, cat's on mute.
Mute.
I'm trying to, good morning. I'm sorry, I had trouble. I was trying to unmute and video. Yeah, I believe it was very confusing. I believe that they can just walk in and out. It's not the same time. It's all different tests by different tests at the same time.
But are they taking, do they say they're doing it now with others?
That I don't recall.
Yeah, okay, so we're in the same boat. Okay, good. My memory may be bad, but it's not the only one that is. Okay, thank you. So anyway, then it goes to the proctor, who again has 8 observes there, and and if the proctor sees something that is of concern, then they can escalate the issue to a security agent, who would then view the candidate, who's viewing the candidate in addition to the proctor. And the security agent it's 1-to-1, so there's be one security agent assigned to one candidate, and that's all that person would be observing. And also, so if an issue comes up, then the security agent would be looking at the anomaly, whether it has to do anything with the keyboard, with the laptop, or the environment, where maybe there's a question somehow that maybe this person really isn't who the person says they are. So the security agent would look into that, and that person can shut down the session if the security agent feels that is warranted. Otherwise, if they don't feel it's, if they're not concerned, if they check out whatever it is and they feel it's not a big concern, and they can say, okay, continue, and allow the test to still go forward. And even while that's going on, the proctor will continue to virtually, quote, walk through the floor. And once the candidate session ends, the proctor then is available to proctor others. And they said that the key to the process is security, not convenience necessarily to the candidate. So it's, if they do come to an impasse on whether on security, they'll see what the tolerance is for that. And otherwise there'll be no session, or they'll have to move again to another location, and they'll start the whole process all over again. And it's more or less an hour for the readiness session. And also the time for readiness is not part of the exam time. That's separate time. I mean, the exam, they would still get the same amount of time to actually be taking the exam. The proctor is able to hear sounds. So I guess if they click on a specific candidate, they can hear what's going on in that environment, in that person's room. And the different exams, not just the CPA, the system check at the beginning includes the reliability and the consistency of the person's network. If the Wi-Fi does go out, they're very aggressive with the tolerance, as they call it, for the connectivity. But if they're down for 30 to 60 seconds, they'll relaunch. You have to go through the readiness process all over again, because they just were not able to observe what was going on during that time period. So again, if there is a break, then there is they don't want to give the candidate the benefit of the doubt in those cases. And then so again, they monitor both the system and the people for anomalies. And right now, Prometric will be keeping the video for each candidate, and then depending on the contract and NASBA, depending on how long they'll keep it and whether it would come, how it would become available, if there had to be a search into an investigation of what was going on there. We talked about, question came up about breaks. They said if there is a break during the time someone is actually taking the test, taking a testlet, then what the return procedure is, they'll have to check the environment and then redo all the readiness checks again. No, I take it back. If it happens during the session, it'll end the session. That's it. If it happens during the testlet. If it happens between the testlets that's unscheduled, then when they come back, they have to go through the readiness check before they would allow them to go on to the next test. And there will still be, I guess, as there are now, a scheduled break, and that's that would just be, I guess, treated as it is now. Then Mike Decker from the AICPA spoke, and again, he said, you know, they still not defined between them and NASBA what an emergency is. They said they're doing this slowly because it must be fair and secure. Obviously, there's another concern is that some people have better laptops and better networks, better connectivity and all that than others, and they want to be fair to all. So that is still a concern with this. They're talking about having a pilot done with real candidates, with real sections. It would likely be only candidates who've tested previously. There would be no continuous testing for the pilot, and they would want to get that done by the end of March. They were talking about testing between 250 and 1,000 sections, but you know, they're still trying to figure out how that would work. The next steps are they were looking for state boards to have some input. You know, again, I don't think all the information is available yet for us. They are going to complete their internal testing of their software, and they're considering having what they call friends and family take the test. So that would be, I guess, just people from current CPAs just taking the test just to see how it would be. You know, then it would not be live. Then the pilot that they just talked about with real candidates, real sections, then they would reassess it. And then, so again, they're looking for in the future for what an emergency is. Would they do an additional pilot? And they also talk about adding features for Americans with Disability Act issues. Then Colleen Conrad from NASBA spoke about risk mitigation. And she said board uniformity is a concern. There is some exam, but some exam per, they want to be the same exam. You know, they say the NASBA and the AICPA feel it's the same exam as what would be going on at the test centers. And the question is, would boards agree, and would state statute allow it? According to NASBA attorneys, that so far no states would have to change their statutes to allow that. Some refer to pro-metric test centers. I don't believe that includes us. So I think, thankfully, it's one thing we wouldn't have to change. They would like all boards to accept the pilot scores that they have, and then they would then reassess there. Then they're talking about security issues. Could they really lock down the PC? They're doing one thing they are doing that she mentioned that the others did not. They have an outside vendor doing security risk assessments right now of the software and of the system. So they're looking at that. They don't have the results of that yet. And then the question, what do they do about candidates who do not have internet access? During the pilot, they could send them to the test centers. And other options would be, would a firm allow people in to use their equipment, their network and their connectivity, or would another entity like a school or something? So they're looking at that, just again, trying to look at fairness for this. Someone asked about increased costs, and I said it's the same at first for the candidate's fee. It would not go up. The readiness costs, there are readiness costs for NASBA, the AICPA, and Prometric, but there are no significant additions to the cost of the exam. They're looking to extend the contract that they have with Prometric currently. They would also expand it to include this area, but that's still being ironed out. Questions about, from our standpoint, from the boards, there's availability of the recording if we needed it, policies and procedures. They said that samples are coming from NASBA about that, so we'll see what they come up with there. And then she went over some of the next steps, which is similar to the other ones that were brought up. Emergency definition needs to be made. Technical work continues by all three areas. The risk assessment of the security by the cyber team on the outside is still taking place. They're working on the draft of the policies and procedures, working on the amendment to the contract. Okay, so supposedly in this month, we're going to get FAQs, they said, to the boards. Anything we get, I can forward out to you. Risk mitigation considerations would be sent to us, and the definition of the emergency. So Supposedly that's happening this month. We will see. And they are hoping that the majority or all the boards will allow this type of remote testing in an emergency. So that was that meeting. I'm not,
Frank, I thought another might be important thing is I think when the testing is being done, the proctor can see or lock down the computer, right? The candidate's computer.
the computer is supposedly only, when that's going on, right, they do lock down the computer and the person would not have access to anything other than the software for the test.
Yeah, and so that was, and so I might add that at this call, I don't know if any of you were watching this, but it seems like at one point they said all 50 state board, staff or members were watching this demonstration. And from what I could see, the questions, there were a lot of questions, a lot of concerns expressed by the states. And I think when they were going through answering the questions, they kind of grouped them into similar concerns and, they addressed them like that. But anyway, so I'll take this opportunity now to raise my concerns, which is I have a lot of concerns over this, what I observed. Mainly is that I don't think they offer enough information. I feel that, Pro Proctor glossed over a lot of information when asked. For example, a lot of questions were asked about what would the AI, they called it, watch for. Like they said they would, observe anomalies. But so questions would be asked like, well, what would be considered an anomaly? And they basically never explained what the AI would watch for. They did say that eye movement was hard to detect and definitely not for people with glasses. So basically they said, okay, if you wear glasses, they couldn't detect anomalies, basically. And they, I had no confidence in what they explained at all because they really offer no information. And also, like right now, my son is a senior in high school, and when he's taking a test, the teachers basically require him to have 2 cameras. One is basically what you and I see each other, and another camera will be on the side where the teacher would see the workspace around him, basically the desk, what's in front between the computer and him. So right now I'm looking at Frank, for example, all I see his shoulders up. I don't see anything in front of him. I don't see what he's looking at. I don't see anything. But with the second camera on the side, the teachers can see exactly what he's doing, how he's taking the test, what notes around. And this does not show any of that at all. And so I thought that could be a quick fix, but they're not proposing that. And also, there were questions about how they want to roll this out quickly. And they said they aim to hire over 1,000 proctors in the next, short few, within a short time frame. But so questions, like a lot of questions were asked, well, what qualifications are you looking for? And who are these proctors? Are they from
How are you going to train them?
They didn't offer any explanations at all. They just say, oh, we're just going to aim to get a lot within a short time. But again, no qualifications were offered at all. And like proctoring. So they explain the process of what happens when there's an anomaly. Apparently, the proctor can then send it to the security agent. But while they're texting each other back and forth. And so questions were asked, okay, when that's texting, would the screen for the proctor be the same? Could the proctor still see other candidates? Because this proctor is now having this one candidate, mainly on his big screen. And so the answer was yes, the other 7 candidates who are still taking the test would be like a small little, what do you call it, on the side. So to me, like if you're concerned about one candidate and then you're looking into, the anomaly that you're observing, you're texting, with a security agent during that same time, other people can do other things that are totally unobserved. And so it didn't give me comfort at all.
Well, can I don't disagree with that, Oli, but my understanding was the security agent would be focusing on the anomaly, and that the proctor might answer a few questions, but was still focusing on everybody else who was testing, and would not be looking into the anomaly. They'd just be saying what they observed. Hey, this is what I saw. Would you look into this? And then go back to looking at the others. So it's not like both of them are focusing just on that one person that entire time.
You could be right, but the impression I got was there's at least some amount of time that's going back and forth between the two. It would explain, okay, what the problem is, what that person observed, and so there's definitely an amount of time devoted where that's one candidate would take up most of the screen, and the other candidates would be just a tiny little button or like a little side.
No, that's fair. Yeah. And I just just for the board, I did not, because Ms. Arsenault mentioned the AI, and that, yeah, in addition to people looking, observing, there's going to be an artificial intelligence that's, supposedly scanning in and checking things out on the system and all during this whole time. That's what she was
I'm
referring
reminded of a lecture I saw on artificial intelligence where it started off as saying it certainly is artificial, but it's not necessarily intelligent. Seems, at least in the beginning, no matter what the technical thing is, some of the devil in the details would be what those criteria would be when they roll it out as to who could take it. Be very important.
So one thing they made very clear, NASPA made very clear, Colleen, that the NASPA would not want to roll this out unless they have approval from all the states, because they don't want to run into a situation where a test, an exam results would not be accepted by certain states.
Right.
So anyway, they're really pushing hard for this, and I have real concerns.
Would this allow people in other countries that right now don't have testing centers to take the US exam?
I think, I didn't make the note, but as I recall, the plan initially is not to have people, well, maybe it's just for the pilot. The pilot would just be US candidates, right?
Right, just
Yeah,
US candidate for now.
Right. But it is a good question, because yeah, that brings up all sorts of questions about the remoteness. But I mean, technologically, there's no reason it would not be allowed if you're just treating every candidate the exact same way, which shouldn't matter what country there is. But anyway, initially, at least the pilot is going to be just US candidates. I know that for sure.
And actually, it raised questions when I was watching this. I don't know what the CPA exam is like, but it seems like you can't have any scraps paper in front of you. I'm not sure if there's math involved, but for me, for example, I'm a very visual person. So even though when I read, when I think about law matters or like legal things, I still write things down. Sometimes I make notes for myself, like, if it's a list or something. It seems like it's not allowed, or you can have no scrap paper in front of you. And so I'm not sure what they're detecting, you know what I mean? So if it is allowed, then what kind of notes are you gonna have? Can you, pull notes to cheat on the test? I'm not sure. That was very confusing to me.
Are they allowed in the current test centers that people know? Can you bring in notes, blank pieces of paper and write notes? Does anybody? I just have not had that experience, so I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
So who has friends and family enough to want to take this exam again?
not even just for fun. Yeah, couldn't get me to take the bar again, trust me.
Okay, any comments or any desired further discussion?
I think Kat's point about having a camera that shows the workplace is very important. The workstation.
I like that.
Not only that, but it would open things up for having scrap doodling paper, which could be checked.
So I think, I'm not sure how important this is, but I think what NASPA is looking for is your input. So we have to think, I'm not sure what the timeline is, but let's say if they want something before the next board meeting, Should we think about process wise? Should we, then email the board members as to what you're thinking, how you want to vote, how to disseminate information to each of you. So I just know that at the end of that session, they were really looking, it's like they kept repeating, they wanted input from the boards.
Yeah,
I would say that process-wise, if we ask Kat to write something up and send it out for comments, because I like the second camera idea too.
Well, I mean, I would love to do that, only I don't have enough information, but let's see what because a lot of it, they didn't even offer any information, but those are just my first thoughts. But I would definitely need them to provide
But
more information.
It would be very useful to see sort of a list of potential concerns that people could consider. And that might
course.
trigger some other things.
Of course.
yeah, I mean, I agree. They're looking for input, but on the other hand, there's still so many questions out there. I'm not sure, maybe that's the input they're looking for. What questions do you want answered at this point,
They made it very
Right.
unclear. They left it very vague. They didn't say, anything. They just didn't have any deadlines other than we'll come out with the definition of emergency. And the way I'm thinking is, well, the emergency is almost over, right? Let's hope.
Yeah.
If we can survive all this long, why now?
Yeah, I can't imagine this getting pushed through and changed before, it'll take a while for the vaccines and everything to really do the trick, but I would see that would probably be faster than they could turn this around.
right?
But it would, yeah, I think it's critical to see hey, come on, give us some thoughts on what an emergency is. What even are you considering? Okay, Frank, you had mentioned that there's something else that you thought should be added to the,
Well, yes, the question has come up for us, what to do for people who, despite the extension, still do not complete their CPEs. Now, the statute makes reference to actual dates for people being late. In other words, so obviously, generally they're due June 20th, June 30th. And then it's $325, $315, $325.
325.
Is it 325? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right,
I-
315.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, you're right, 315.
Okay, it's 315. It's if you get them done by September 20th, 30th. Boy, September 30th. Keep going back to keep cutting off 10 days after this. And so basically, you get three months, and then if you still don't get them done, but don't get them done until the end of the calendar year, and this was specific to December 31st, then it's the 625. But the board, gave everybody the extension until the end of the calendar year. And we know of at least one person who didn't get them done. Despite all that, that actually is going to be the next item. Some person's made a request for an extension. But I guess if we find that others have not completed their CPs, the question then is how should we treat them? Should we basically take the 3-month, 6-month time periods that are in the statute and treat them similarly? Do we treat them as we have been under normal circumstances? In other words, it would be the 625 plus, and I can't remember how much, we basically have a policy of a certain amount per month that they're late after, after December 31st. We just treat them that way. But we felt that it was worth a discussion and getting the board's input on that.
just a question, given the rather, I think, generous extensions, maybe not generous considering, but appropriate considering COVID, Is the rate of people that just don't manage to get their CPE done significantly higher now than it would be in a non-COVID year?
No, it's definitely a lot less. So far, we've had only one extension request, and that's going to be before you next. But, you know, I even wrote that to that person. I said there were a lot of courses online, and he admitted, he said, yeah, there were. So, you know, he just didn't do it. But yes, so in a normal year, there will be a lot more. This year, there's only one request.
So
And
shouldn't,
he didn't even have any good excuse.
Then
I
why
guess it's
request? Just pay it.
roll the dice, yeah.
You don't ask, you don't get, I guess.
Right. But I guess, yeah, so, I don't know, does anyone have a preference, whether it's, you know, just to mirror what's in the statute? Well, interestingly enough, the 6 months will take us right to the end of the new CPE year, which has not changed. So, but we'll worry about that when we get closer to that, I suppose.
I'm not quite sure I understood your last.
Well, I guess the question is, do we then just treat, so in other words, people who get their CPEs finished before the end of March will just have the $315 late fee. And then those that complete them by June 30th would be the $625. Of course, the issue is, there's another issue here that I just thought about, which is you need to have those in order to renew in the first place. So, you know, that might be more of an, that's, you know, that it might be one of these things where they can't get their, you know, should not be getting their license until they get those things in. That is one of the requirements.
Well,
I think that if we just mirrored it, it should be fine.
yeah.
That it's going to be tough if they don't get it till June for them to get the next year. So we'll see them 2 years in a row.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
So Cal, we felt that the board should vote on,
Yeah, be glad to. Do you have a motion?
actually, we're adding this to the agenda, probably should first vote
Oh,
to
okay.
put it on.
I'll entertain a motion to add this to the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
I'll
Second.
any opposed? Motion's carried. Now we need a motion.
I would mirror the fee structure. I'd make a motion to mirror the fee structure for a June cutoff, except make it a December 31st cutoff. So 90 days is the same fee as 90 days, etc.
Do we have a second?
I second that. It's Martha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Now, do we have to deal with the individual request?
Yes.
Then we need a
And also,
motion
okay,
to
this
add that
is-
to the agenda also.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is for Benjamin Chianese. A request for an extension for his continuing professional education.
I'll make a motion to add that to the agenda.
Second,
Second, I'm sorry.
I'll
We don't-
second.
do we have a, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Now we can address it.
Okay, so he is looking to extend this to January 31st. And, okay, the reason he says is for good cause, and it was in his email. which is right here. And he basically said, let's see, with the COVID issue, which is I was not able to complete the required 40 hours of CPE for the December 31st deadline. And we asked for more information and for something from a medical person. He said, attaches the application requested, which is just the application. To date, I have completed 13 CPE hours and need an additional 27 more. The reason for the extension is the result of the COVID outbreak within our facility that has escalated over the past months. And that's what his reasoning. We asked for supporting documentation for why he could not complete them even with the extension. And let's see, I mentioned also that there were many CPE courses available online. You also need documentation showing the escalated outbreak at your facility. I don't really have a documentation. You are correct that there are courses available online, which I did subscribe to. However, due to COVID issue at our facility over the months, the priority seems to change daily and time seems to get away. So that's what we have.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I thought with all the extensions, there was just no way we were gonna have this.
He didn't do a very good job at linking what this COVID outbreak at the facility meant to his inability to.
Right. Didn't
So,
link it at all.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Right.
Next, any new business? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn. This is Tim.
Second?
Marcia will second.
Okay, no discussion allowed on that, so I'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you all and be
Have
safe.
a
All right,
good,
everyone.
Take care,
good
guys.
busy
Here,
season,
everybody.
everybody.
well.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aye.